Well, that's why it was smart of Trump, though maybe not our number one issue to raise. I mean, I would have rather heard about the dead Americans, the dead children. But it was smart of him to raise what's happening in Aurora, Colorado, and in Springfield, Ohio, because these are two of the centers that have been overwhelmed, in one with Venezuelan migrants in Colorado and one with Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. Overwhelmed, these towns are, with these migrants that have been shipped there by the Biden administration. The City Journal, which does they do great reporting in general, but in a piece entitled Chaos in Aurora that came out the day of the debate, how the federal government subsidized the migrant madness in suburban Colorado, does a great job of documenting what happened in Aurora with these Venezuelan migrants, some of them members of gangs who have taken over a series of apartment buildings there and unleashed terror, that some have been implicated in attempted homicides, shocking security footage showing heavily armed men forcibly entering one of the apartments. Look at this. And that this is all at the Biden administration's hand. The story begins in 21 when the Biden administration signed the American Rescue Plan. They allocated $3.8 billion of federal funds to Colorado. The city of Denver declared itself welcoming to migrants and drew on the reservoir of money to launch an emergency migrant response resettlement program, wanting to house and provide services to this massive flow of migrants Joe Biden had allowed. Denver signed multi-million-dollar contracts with two non-governmental organizations to provide housing and services and so on. They created a magnet, is what they did, Buck. And now the citizens of Aurora, Colorado are overrun. And what's happening in Springfield, Ohio is equally disturbing. We've now spent 3 days arguing about whether cats are being killed. There are testimonials that they are. The city manager says it's not true. I don't know what's real. I know that poor city is overwhelmed. And you want to know how I know? Because we watched that entire city commissioner meeting, not just the most incendiary sound bites, which we've shown the audience of the guy claiming that ducks are being beheaded and eaten from the local pond. There's also a 911 call of people calling saying they're stealing geese and killing them. There's also a Facebook post of somebody saying they skinned a cat and hung it up like a deer. Unverified, but it's there. But listen to this woman talking about what her life is like living in Springfield, SOT 9.
I was looking at the giant holes in some of our buildings. I noticed all of the old familiar spots bearing new signs in an unfamiliar language. I watched as groups of strangers walked around the city like lost tourists, and it was like a punch in the gut. A terrible sadness came over me, and I began to cry. I immediately started to think back to when I was little, walking from my grandma's house on South Fountain through downtown and all the way to Snyder Park, going to Wren's to get new school clothes and shoes, the excitement of the mall for lunch at the Blue Fox, or even better, to see Santa, riding down High Street, admiring the beauty of those stately homes and their amazing architecture, dropping pennies in the fountain and making wishes. And now, all those warm memories are becoming fuel to the fire of anger inside of me. I feel like we have been invaded by some sort of pest. I'm angry that my friends and family are packing up and moving away. I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here. I'm angry that another country's flag was being flown in our city. I'm angry when I see our businesses and recreational areas littered with garbage left by people that do not know or understand our laws and culture and are making no attempt to learn about them. And let me be clear, this is not about race. This is about people being given the privilege of coming here from another country and having no respect for our people, our land, or our life's work. People living their life here the way they did in Haiti, angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people. Opening containers in our grocery stores, helping themselves to what's inside and throwing the rest onto the shelves and floors. Pulling off of the highway to publicly clean and gut the roadkill lying there in front of anyone that passes by. Stealing animals from farmers and leaving their severed heads at the side of an old school where children play. Relieving themselves in public, making some barbaric stew out of the birds that live in our park. This is insanity, and it has to stop.
Coming soon to a city near you, thanks to Biden-Harris. Buck.
You know, I've spent in my earlier years, Megyn, in the CIA, I spent a number of I spent a number of years of my early life in some very nasty third world places where there's tremendous poverty, tremendous corruption, and the anarchy of a failed state all around you. One of the ways you can actually always tell about how sophisticated or not a country may be is by how it deals with its trash. And for example, anytime someone brings up that recent migrants have a different handling of refuse, culturally speaking, you're told, oh, that's so horrible. It actually is true all over the world. This is a reality that countries that are orderly and have rule of law tend to also be better about dealing with their refuse. So all these things that she's saying that she's dealing with, not surprising to anyone who's been to countries that are as poor as Haiti, as I have, and dealing with these things. It always falls on the working class. It falls on people who just bought their first home,
Exactly.
Who have been saving up for years. And now in their neighborhood, in their schools, in their local hospital, it's deal with it. If you have a problem with it, you're a bad person. Why don't you want all these migrants here? I think of the case of New York City, for example, and the way that there are so many migrants now that, first of all, hotels, you want to go to New York for the holidays, guess what? You're going to be paying, I think, 20 or 30% more than you ever have before in the city of New York. Part of that, I know, is also the Airbnb ban, but it's a big percentage of the hotel rooms are being given to these migrants. People who understand the history of Ellis Island in reality, not just the poem on the Statue of Liberty, will tell you that about a third of Italian migrants during some of the great waves of migration to the United States went back home. Why did they go back home? They went back home because there was no welfare state here. And if you couldn't make it, it just was too hard and they wanted to go back to the home country. I think very few people know this. I think more people should know this. I think a lot of people should go check out what it was like for Irish and Jewish and Italian and other immigrants to this country in the early 20th century, living in the tenements of the Lower East Side. There's the Tenement Museum.
Yeah,
they were just
those are my people.
Putting their children. I'm sorry?
Those are my people. That was our family story.
Yeah, I come from Irish potato famine people. There were,
yep.
They would have outbreaks of cholera and typhus, and they'd be stacking their children dead out front like firewood, and nobody cared. It was a different time. People who talk about this like, oh, give me, you're tired, you're poor, you're weak, you're hungry. They're showing up now with food cards and free housing and free medical care. If this is the new policy, we need to take in 1 billion poor people who don't give a crap about America, but they want free stuff. We can't actually do that. They sent Trump's accountant. I know this seems like a huge digression, but I don't think it is at all. They sent Trump's accountant to prison in Rikers Island for not putting company use of a car on his taxes. But then they're giving people who are not even supposed to be in the country free hotel rooms with your tax dollars. I mean, think about the country we live in. Think about the two-tier justice system that exists. This whole thing is absolutely insane. And I mean, if I were Trump, this affects the economy. This affects our cultural and political continuity as a nation. I think this is the biggest issue that exists right now. And Kamala and Joe Biden are the worst ever on this. It's not even close. Obama was the reporter-in-chief badass compared to them.
As a kid, you loved eating cereal, right? But as an adult, you don't want all that sugar. And most cereals do not have the protein you need. But then there's Magic Spoon, a nostalgically delicious cereal that tastes just like your childhood favorites, but without the sugar and with a ton of protein. And now Magic Spoon has turned their super popular cereal into high-protein treats that are light, crispy, and taste just like those classic crunchy cereal bars. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are so delicious, and they can serve as a before or after gym snack. Magic Spoon's treats are an easy way to get 11 grams of protein on the go. And for the first time ever, Magic Spoon treats are available in grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/MK or look for Magic Spoon in your nearest grocery store. Magicspoon.com/MK for $5 off. Magic Spoon, hold on to the dream. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.